يا أرحم الراحمين عافنا واعف عنا واغفر لنا وارحمنا أنت مولانا فانصرنا على القوم الكافرين. Dear brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. We're going to go over a hadith. This hadith narrated by Abu Hurairah radiallahu anh. And this hadith has more than one narration. يقول الرسول صلى الله عليه وسلم. I'm going to say the hadith inshallah in Arabic, then I'm going to translate it in English. يقول رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم: سبعة يظلهم الله بظله يوم القيامة يوم لا ظل إلا ظله. The first one, إمام عادل. And the second one, رجل تعلق قلبه في المساجد ما يتركه إلا أن يعود إليه. وشاب نشأ في طاعة الله. ورجل دعته امرأة ذات منصب وجمال فقال إني أخاف الله. ورجلان تحابا في الله واجتمعا عليه وتفرقا عليه. ورجل ينفق في سبيل الله لا تعلم شماله ما أنفقت يمينه. Then we're going to go over the hadith. The hadith of Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam again mentioned there is 7 people. They're going to be shaded in the shade of Allah yawm al-qiyamah, where there is no shade but the shade of Allah, and they're going to be protected with Allah. There is no protection in that day. The first thing the first thing Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam mentioned, Imamun Adil. What is supposed to mean? Imamun Adil, when Allah Azza wa Jal put you in a position that you are doing and controlling the affairs of the ummah, you have to be just. You have to look after the ummah. You need to understand that Allah is watching you, and you have to use justice between them. No discrimination. No, this is rich, there is poor, there is no. You have to look after their affairs, and their affairs is like you're looking after your affairs with justice. And that's what Allah, Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam mentioned, that Imamun Adil. وَرَجُلٌ قَلْبُهُ مُتَعَلَّقٌ بِالْمَسَاجِدِ. A man that his heart is always connected to the masajid. When he leaves, he will think about coming back. He's always on time for the prayers. He's always, remember that the prayers. He's always that love to be in the masajid. Why the masajid? Because we know the message of Baytullah. The masjid, when you connected to the masajid, you are in the house of Allah. And we know that the value of the masajid. Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam in one hadith, أو كما قال الرسول صلى الله عليه وسلم قال ما اجتمع قوم في المسجد يذكرون الله أو يقرؤون القرآن أو يتدارسون إلا غشيتهم الرحمة وحفتهم ونزلت عليهم الطمأنينة وحفتهم الملائكة وذكرهم الله في من عنده. That the people that are in the masajid, that Allah Azza wa Jal will send upon them His own mercy, and they have sakina, tuma'nina, and the angel will be with them, and Allah Azza wa Jal will mention their names in al-mala' al-a'la, in the sky with the angels. That's the man, that's what it is. It does tell you the importance of watching for the salah, loving the salah, connected to the masajid. Then وَشَابٌ نَشَأَ فِي طَاعَةِ اللَّهِ. You know that when you are young, you're full of energy, full of youth. You can use your youth for whatever you can use it. Some of them, وَالْعِيَاذُ بِاللَّهِ, they use it in haram. But this young man, قلبه, نشأ في طاعة الله, that he's always with the Quran, he's always with the people of the masajid, he's always with the deen, he's always used all his time, all his energy for the sake of Allah. That young man is going to be in the protection of Allah Azza wa Jal. Then رجل ذكر الله خاليا ففاضت عيناه. Then when رجل, it's a man, when he thinks about Allah, thinks what Allah has for him, thinks about Allah's mercy, thinks about the reward, the Jannah of Allah, think what Allah gave us, think that, in every single bounty that Allah give you, and he thinks for all the name and attribute of Allah, and he start tearing from the love of Allah. وعين بكت من خشية الله. Then ورجل دعته امرأة ذات منصب وجمال, that a man with a position, with a beauty, ask him for والعياذ بالله for haram, for fornication. قال إني أخاف الله. That he left it for the sake of Allah. When you fight your temptation for the sake of Allah, as you are watching Allah, that is the martaba of ihsan. Wal ihsan We know that إحسان أن تعبد الله كأنك تراه فإن لم تكن تراه فإنه يراك. That we worship Allah inshallah as if we see Allah. You know, that we are watching every single thing. And if we cannot see Allah, you need to understand Allah is watching you. And that's when a woman with a position, with the money, this is like it's like for somebody, it's an opportunity. But for a believer, قال إني أخاف الله رب العالمين. Then for the other person, their brothers and sisters, رجل that أنفق نفقة لم تعلم شماله ما أنفقت يمينه. You know, sometimes people when they do نفقة, when they do spending for the sake of Allah, they stick their hand in their pocket and they know money and they don't know how much, and they will grab whatever it is and they put it for the sake of Allah. Even himself, he doesn't know how much. Why? Because when you give for the sake of Allah, you don't ask how. You don't ask how much. You just give for the sake of Allah. And that's what Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, he said that the left hand, it doesn't know how much. Why? Because we're not watching. And again, let me summarize it. The first one, we need Nas'alullah. At least we have one or two categories. ونسأل أن نكون منهم. The first thing, again, إمام عادل. It means when you have the responsibility, you have to be just. Why? Because Allah is not going to ask you about yourself. He's going to ask you about every single person in this ummah. Every single person in this ummah. وَرَجُلٌ قَلْبُهُ مُتَعَلَّقٌ بِالْمَسَاجِدِ. You know, some people, subhanAllah, he's gone away, and all of a sudden he will ask, oh, when is the salah? And he's always in the masajid. Why? Because he knows that Allah is here. He knows the malaika is here. He knows the Quran is here. He knows the Sunnah is here. He knows the good suhbah, the suhbah tayyibah. You know, the good people, the good example are here. رجل متعلق. And youth. Can you imagine when you have a youth? You know, over here, subhanAllah, everywhere, when somebody is 18 years old, and we call him in Arabic Taish. Taish, as he's like, you know, he's like, he's young, he's like, you know, goofing off. Then this man, again, he has his youth, he has his energy, he has all the energy, he has all the time, he has all the power, and some of them has the money, but what he uses his youth for the sake of Allah. You know, we see some, alhamdulillah, Rabbil Alamin, we see some of the youth over here, and we have the youngest young man right here, he's 8 years old. We have 14 years old, we have 15 years old, and it speaks for itself, because it's not easy to be at this age, and you are right here for the sake of Allah. And ورجل, again, when you think about Allah, you know that when you think about Allah mercy, you think Allah rewards, you think about Allah Jannah, you think about Allah والعياذ بالله his fire, فاضت عيناه. And again, and رجل دعته امرأة, فاضت عيناه, that he start tearing for the sake of Allah. He's tearing for the love of Allah. He's tearing for the, asking for the reward of Allah Azza wa Jal. And again, the last one, always, how many of us, Nas'alullah, that we're not going to fall in that temptation? How many of us, inshallah, Azza wa Jal, we understand that when a woman or any kind of lustful thing, any empowerment, sometimes some women, they're going to be empowered, they're going to use their power on their employees. They're going to ask, they're going to control for whatever it is, adultery, fornication, whatever it is. And he knows, قال إني أخاف الله رب العالمين. And we remember the story. Yeah, Yusuf, that's what I'm going to say exactly. You remember the story of Yusuf alayhi salam, when the Imra'atul Aziz, tried to use him against his will, والعياذ بالله, and he ran away from her. Yeah, Zulaykha. Yeah, her name is Zulaykha, and yes, Imra'atul Aziz. Even at the time, again, Sayyidina Yusuf alayhi salam, he's a young man. Even Yusuf, a prophet, and we're talking about us. Allah Azza wa Jal mentioned us, a regular person, and that when you spend for the sake of Allah, again, you need to spend out of love, out of that Allah Azza wa Jal will reward you for it. It's not out of stinginess, or maybe maybe I need it, or maybe next time, maybe this and that. That when you spend for the sake of Allah, it's spent with the love of Allah. That when you spend, you don't know how much you spend, because you know that Allah Azza wa Jal will save it for you, and Allah will reward you. نسأل الله العزيز القدير أن يعلمنا ما ينفعنا وأن ينفعنا بما علمنا. اللهم زدنا علما. اللهم لا تجعل في مقامنا هذا ذنبا إلا غفرته ولا هما إلا فرجته، ولا دينا إلا قضيته، ولا مريضا إلا شفيته وعافيته، ولا ضالا إلا هديته، ولا عدوا إلا قهرته، ولا سائلا إلا أعطيته، ولا دعوة إلا استجبت لها يا أرحم الراحمين. وصلى اللهم على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما كثيرا. بارك الله فيكم وجزاك الله كل خير. حياكم الله. الله يبارك فيك. حياكم الله.